Okay, so I will start. My name is Krupa. I'm working as an operation engineer in the SUSE Studio team and build service team. I'm working in SUSE for about 5 years. I joined the studio team in the beginning, right a few months after it was launched for the public. I'm working mostly on the infrastructure. That doesn't mean hardware side because our servers are far away from the location where I work, but mostly on the software level. That means automation of the installation, post-configuration, and as well as deployments. Because SUSE Studio is mostly Rails application, and we do continuous deployment, so that's quite some challenge in terms of infrastructure and avoiding outages and stuff like that. So that's something about me, and now I would like to tell you something about SUSE Studio. I guess some of you already know Studio, maybe some of you don't, so I will speak for about 5 minutes to give you some brief introduction before I jump on the new stuff we implemented in Studio in the past 1 or 2 years. So what is SUSE Studio? SUSE Studio is an appliance builder. From Studio perspective, appliance is an image which contains operating system applications and also configuration of those two things. So to give you an example, what could be an appliance and how it can be used for. Let's say you want to start blogging on a WordPress platform. So what you need for that is some machine, could be virtual, could be physical. Then you need operating system. Let's say we will use openSUSE for that. And on top of that, you need to have Apache, PHP, MySQL, and WordPress itself. So what you normally do is to launch a VM or take a physical machine and install all of the required software on that, configure it, and it will probably take like 30 or 45 minutes to do that. That's the old way. But if you use SUSE Studio, you can be done within 5 or 10 minutes because everything can be done on the web. And once you configure the operating system and all of the applications on top of that, which can be done with just a few mouse clicks, you can download the resulting image quite quickly. And then you just put it on the machine or inside the virtual machine. And what's interesting about it is if you had more of these machines, you can duplicate it quite easily just downloading the image to some other location. This is how the configuration looks like. It's the software selection tab. On top, you can see that you can customize the appliance the way that you can put different repositories, so you don't really have to be dependent just on the openSUSE repositories. You can use other build service repos or your own, or you can even upload your custom files on top of the appliance. On the bottom of the page, you see that there is a list of applications which were added to the appliance. So for the WordPress appliance, this could be the Apache or PHP and stuff like that. We support various build formats, starting from formats for physical machines. That's the USB stick or the preload USB image, live CD, and other, as well as virtual machines. That means if you want to deploy it on VMware or VirtualBox or KVM or Xen, it's also possible. You just click on different build target, and within 5 minutes you have the image for a different platform. And recently we started to support also different cloud platforms. So I would say like SUSE Cloud or EC2. This is quite an interesting feature of Studio because usually if you are configuring the image, you hit some problems. And the normal workflow would be probably to configure it, download it, test it. You find out that something is wrong. Then you start from the beginning and download it, take some bandwidth to do that. But really, what you can do in Studio is to launch the appliance directly from a browser on our servers. It will boot up. You can interact with that. That includes even the desktop. Like you can boot GNOME into GNOME and you can test various applications and test your configuration. If you find some problem, you just rebuild it. And once you are happy, you download the appliance. Everything is done in the browser without any special requirements for software installation on the client side. We also have a product called SUSE Studio Onsite. That's mainly focused on companies which does want to run Studio on their own infrastructure. The difference is that there are various differences, mostly minor. The biggest one is that we support S390 architecture on the SUSE Studio Onsite. So that's something you can do if you want to use it on your own infrastructure. Because this was just a theory, so I was thinking about how to. I was thinking about some real-life examples where you can use Studio, and I don't mean just examples how you can use it in your company, but how you can use it in your daily life and how it can make your life easier. So I came with 3 examples which maybe you could find interesting, and that could be a reason why you would try Studio. First is a situation which probably most of us have already encountered, and that's you started a computer, and there is some weird error message saying that the drive is failed. There are some bad sectors on that, and I'm sure that most of us do daily backups, but yeah, sometimes we don't. And in that case, what we start to do is probably the first thing would be to look for some rescue CD or some installation CD from openSUSE, boot it up, fire up the rescue prompt, and try to do something with that. But usually the problem is that there are some tools missing in this CD. So, and we need to use these tools for the repair of the computer. So the next step would be to fire up Google, try to search for some rescue CD, try different options, and I guess in like 30 minutes, 60 minutes maybe, we will have finally our rescue CD working and start with the process of rescuing the data from the drive. If we use Studio for that, what we can do is just click on the new appliance, select openSUSE as a base image, and then we select the list of the software we need there for the rescue. And this doesn't have to be just the software which is included in the default openSUSE repository. It could be software from build service or some other repos. And by this process, you can have your rescue CD or USB flash drive done in 5 or 10 minutes and start to focus on rescuing the data, because usually these things happen when you have like a 0 time or really minimum time, because there is some deadline coming, and yeah. So that was first example. Another example would be more from a company perspective. Let's say you received 100 new computers, and you have to install one particular application on all of them. I guess the option where you install all of them manually is not really on the plate here, because 100 computers means that you can spend like a week with that, and I guess after installing 1 or 2 of them, you will find it a bit boring. So the logical next step, what you would try, is to do some kind of automation. I guess maybe PXE-boot and Autoyast. That's pretty good choice. And if you have skills in configuring the PXE-boot and Autoyast together and creating the Autoyast scripts and configuration file, that's a very good option. But if you are not really skilled in Autoyast configuration, what could be easier is to create an image in Studio and distribute that image via the same process via PXE-boot to all of those machines. It could also be a little bit quicker depending on what's inside the image. But in general, it will be much easier because you don't really have to look on the details of the configuration file. You just push it there via the PXE-boot server. And the third example is something which I guess a lot of us experience too. Since we are from the IT field, most of our friends consider us as the IT guy which can fix everything. And that means that whenever their computer breaks, they call us and ask us to fix it. Usually that means we have to visit them, or if we want to help them, of course, we have to visit them and spend like 2 or 3 hours reinstalling the computer. But what we can do with Studio is that we can configure their computer in SUSE Studio, add their applications they are using, like Firefox or LibreOffice, maybe some games. You can even add repositories from some proprietary vendors, like you can add Skype in there, and then build the image and create a preload flash drive or preload CD-ROM drive. And once you insert that in the target computer, it's just a matter of hitting 2 times enter, and the whole computer is reinstalled to the initial state. So if you have the data partitioned separately, you are good to go, and you don't even have to be physically. That your non-IT friend can handle that, and he can reinstall the computer quite quickly. So that were like 3 examples which I think you could find interesting. And now I'd like to move to the second part of the presentation, where I'd like to tell you something about the new features which we worked on in Studio for the past 2 years. I think we were talking about Studio in 2012 on the openSUSE conference, so I tried to summarize some most important thing which we changed and what we made to the Studio. So the first thing which comes to my mind is the support for new distributions. We support 2 different distributions. First is openSUSE, and second is SUSE Linux Enterprise. What we try to do is to release support for both of those distributions as soon as possible. Sometimes we make it on the day 1, sometimes it takes a bit longer. But in general, we are trying to always support the latest stuff. So currently you can build openSUSE 13.2 as well as SLE 12 appliances in Studio without the problem, and for those various target platforms which I mentioned in the beginning. We also added new cloud build targets. That means that you can build images and appliances for SUSE Cloud. You can build that for EC2. You can build that for Microsoft Azure and for OpenStack. For some of these platforms, it's not just about support of building those formats, but it's also about support for deploying those formats. So if I come back to the example with WordPress appliance, which I mentioned in the beginning, what it means that you can start with configuring of the WordPress in Studio, and in the end, you don't download it to your computer and upload it to some VM somewhere. You can deploy directly from Studio. So let's say to EC2, you just click, insert your credentials there, and it's automatically deployed and launched on EC2. It's completely seamless, and what's quite cool about this is that you don't really have to touch command line from the beginning to the end. Everything is done quite seamlessly. If you don't want to, of course, you can, but. What we also did is introduced HTTPS-only access. When we started Studio, we always have the possibility to access Studio via HTTPS, but we were quite afraid that the requirement to use HTTPS would be a problem for firewalls in some bigger companies, because they could be quite restrictive. So we started with limiting the HTTP as access for the API in the beginning, which was like a test of how users will react. We didn't really receive any complaints about it, so we moved on. And currently, there is HTTPS requirement for everything in Studio. The only remaining component which we will probably migrate to HTTPS is test drive, and we plan to do that in the next few months. We also increased the performance of the test drive. That was mainly related to the fact that the new desktop environments require some power, and also some users were complaining about the speed of the test drive. So we try to increase the CPU speed as well as the amount of RAM which is dedicated to the test drive. API is something which we have from the beginning. why I mention it here is related to the next slide, but I also wanted to remind you about our API because it's something how you can integrate your applications into Studio and vice versa. So you can use our API to build something and then you can process it with your application and do something else with that. So that's quite useful, and I think a lot of people find that interesting. But the thing which I wanted to mention related to API as a new feature is webhooks. That's something like a reverse API, if I would call that way. It means that every time your build is finished, SUSE Studio sends HTTP post request to your defined URL. And this post request contains JSON file, or JSON, with the detailed information about the actual appliance which was built. So what it means for you is that, for example, if you use the API to build something on Studio, you don't have to periodically check if we already built that image. You just configure the webhooks and listen wait for the callback, and once that's done, you can do something else with the appliance by your software. Now I'm moving to the third part of the presentation, and that's how to help us. Because SUSE Studio has quite some community around it, most of the community is concentrated on the mailing list we have. So if you have any problem with Studio or you have some feature request, that's the best place where you can interact with the other users and especially our team and discuss the possible new features. We listen to that because it kind of helps us to know what to focus on and where to move with the new features there. What we also did is that we put our complete documentation of Studio on GitHub. That means that if you find some bug in the documentation or you have some request on what to add there, you have two ways how to do that. First, the preferred way is to send a pull request. But if you are not really into writing documentation, we would be even happy for creating an issue on GitHub, and then we will try to fix it as soon as possible. Also, you can join our team. What's interesting about our team is that we are not on one place. We are spread all around the world. That means we have people in Czech Republic, Germany, Bulgaria, United States, Spain, and other places. That's quite challenging in terms of time zones and cooperation of the work, but it also means that we are quite flexible about the location of the people who want to join our team. So here are some positions which we currently have open, and they are both, since our team consists of people working on SUSE Studio as well as build service, so these are from both of these locations. Here are some places where to follow us. I don't know what's your preferred social network. If you don't like social networks at all, we still have the mailing list, but you can follow us on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. And now what I'd like to do is to do a quick demonstration of what can SUSE Studio do and how to build the appliance. So if you just give me a second, I will change the configuration of the screen. Okay. Okay, perfect. So this is the main screen of SUSE Studio. After I already logged in. So I already created some appliances using openSUSE. So here's the GNOME desktop appliance. And I also have some SUSE Linux Enterprise and other distros. So, but I will give you the demonstration on this particular one from openSUSE if the network will be okay. Okay, so this is the start screen where you can see the basic information about the appliance. Here's the software selection tab, which I already mentioned on the screenshot in the presentation. You can select the software repos and configure these things. Here you can find detailed configuration of the appliance itself, so you can customize the wallpaper stuff which is started, and once you start the appliance, also users, groups, and stuff like that. You can add some overlay files, and you can build the appliance. So if you want to build, we were talking about the live CD, so I will just select the ISO image and then click build. And what happens is that our service starts to build that image, so you can download it quickly. So it will start soon. In the meanwhile, I will show you the test drive feature. That means that you can, that's the feature which I was talking about, where you can start the appliance inside the browser. So you can see that this is running inside Firefox, and it will boot up quickly, hopefully. But yeah, it's once that boots, it should boot into the GNOME desktop environment, and you can see the exact thing you would see if you boot it on your own computer. So yeah, I think that's it. So if you have some questions to Studio, I would like to answer that. And in the meanwhile, while this boots, so you can see that it really works. Yeah. Okay. Or I can repeat a question if. Oh, cool.
Now it's
okay.
working. Yeah, Jan, thanks for the presentation. I think I'm using Studio since about 1.5 years, and it's a tool I really like.
Perfect.
I think I did a couple of 100 builds to try and test out. It's really great, but I have to say, I think the project could do much better in terms of bug fixing, in terms of community handling, and so on. There are actually two forums, not only the one on SUSE Studio, which is a Nebel forum. There's also one with openSUSE forums. Yeah. So this confuses, first of all, the users. They don't know exactly where to go. Yeah. The responsiveness within the forum itself is getting close to zero. So there are a couple of issues that are coming up all the time. For example, when 13.2 was released as a template, for example, the KDE live CD or live image, KWin was missing. So you can imagine how many users complained about that, and I don't even know if up to now anything happened about that. Second of all, I have a whole bunch of bugs and also feature requests, but no idea where to place that. So if you put it onto SUSE feedback, you hardly get any reply. So if you would enable, for example, a section in Bugzilla, it would professionally manage the bugs as well as the feature requests.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. We, as you mentioned, we already received some requests for that. So yeah, that's definitely something we should think about and
so I'm
be more
building a live image for a medical application, and that I think created in that community some noise. So it is a very good tool to promote openSUSE and SUSE Studio. But on the other hand, if the community and the tool management has that high potential of improvement, to say it positive, it can also destroy a lot. So I would really ask and request from you to improve in that area, especially on the SUSE Studio side. And if you need more, or if you need to talk on the 4 eyes, I'm happy to help you there.
That would be cool, actually, because we need to make some decisions on what would be the main platform, and so it would be really cool to have some opinions from outside of the team about which forum to use or what's the best for the community, because, yeah, it's always good to have some feedback from the outside, because, yeah.
More questions? So who many of you actually use SUSE Studio, apart from him? Quite a few then.
Cool.
Do you want to show us anything on the
Yeah, well, just log in and to show you that the desktop will be loaded. Yeah, but I guess you already saw GNOME desktop, so. Yeah, and I guess the build will be finished in a couple of minutes, so we won't wait for that. But you already see that the first version was successfully built, so you can be almost sure that this one will be too. Okay, so I think that, yeah, there's one question over there.
What I was missing one feature there. I don't know if it's there or just I don't know. That you can change configuration. You rewrite some configuration files that they will be included into build.
Yes.
Because you can supplement some files, you can add, but they are taken in account later. I think it is written there, so you cannot change.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know if I understood the question correctly, but you have quite some ways how to put some of your user-modified files there. The first option is to use the overlay file section here. That means that you can select the location, permissions of the target file, and put it there. You can even upload some archives, which extracts then on some place on the file system. You can also, if you are not really sure which files you are putting inside the appliance, but you know that they are generated, for example, on the first start of the desktop environment, what you can do is to launch the test drive and use the modified files feature there. That means that you can check the file system for modifications and then select which files you want to put back into the appliance. Does that answer your question, or did I misunderstood what exactly you were asking about?
Because I don't remember what I wanted to change that time, but I wanted to change really configuration file which is taking in account before it is appearing there. I want to change some configuration before, so not just add the file, but change that one which is there, because I tried to add the same file, but it was not taken in account. It was.
So you mean that it was overridden by some RPM packager?
Yes, there was some, there are some standard configurations
Yeah.
which are applied, but I
Okay.
couldn't rewrite it somehow,
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about one way how to do that. It's kind of workaround, but maybe we can look on the particular issue after the talk. But what you can also do, there is a section for scripts which can be run even after the build or on the first run of the appliance. So you can create some files there. But as I said, this sounds more like a workaround. So maybe we can discuss this particular issue after the talk and we can find maybe some solution. But yeah, this is the first thing which came to my mind, which you can maybe use for that. But it's not really the best way how to do that. So yeah, let's talk about it then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, I'd like to thank you for listening to the talk. And if you have something like a feedback or things which you want to discuss, you can catch me somewhere here. I will be here for some time, so no problem to discuss anything there. Okay, thanks a lot.